Chapter 8 Tunnels of Terror. Darkness enveloped Herman, Lefwen and Gifford, suffocating their senses. The air hung thick with the scent of damp earth and the distant hiss of steam escaping from hidden crevices. Suddenly, oil lamps flickered to life, casting an eerie glow over the steam mine caverns. The trio found themselves standing on a creaky wooden stage, surrounded by goblin spectators perched in crudely carved stone seats that rose up the cavern walls. A spotlight illuminated a wobbly tower, atop which stood a goblin announcer wearing goggles and a trench coat.
"Welcome to Tunnels of Terror,"
boomed the announcer, his voice amplified through an old-fashioned megaphone. The goblin announcer grinned, exposing jagged teeth as he gestured wildly at the unnerved contestants.
"And now, without further ado, please welcome our host, the one and only Slabs MacGuffin."
A large curtain parted, revealing the rotund figure of Slabs MacGuffin. Dressed in a top hat, vest, and striped pants, the portly goblin sauntered onto the stage, clutching a gold pocket watch in one pudgy hand. He tipped his hat to the goblin on the tower, giving him a nod of appreciation.
"Thank you, Jabby Dearbird."
Slabs replied to his announcer, his voice dripping with oily charm.
"Now, let's meet our brave contestants."
He turned to face Herman, Lefwen and Gifford, looking them up and down as if sizing up fresh meat.
"Tell us, who are you, and where do you hail from?"
Gifford, trying to maintain his composure, answered first.
"I'm Gifford Plainly, and this is my brother Herman. We own the Pilgrim's Rest Inn. It's in the little village of Hope Haven."
"Herman and Gifford from the little village of Hope Haven."
Slabs repeated into his megaphone for the benefit of the goblin audience.
"Well, folks, we have ourselves a couple of country bumpkins."
The goblin audience roared with laughter, their tiny fists pounding against the stone seats.
"And you, my dear?"
Slabs asked, turning to Lefwen.
"I'm Lefwen Quirkin,"
she said, her voice steady despite the gnawing fear inside her.
"I'm a musician and a friend of Herman's."
"The musical Lefwen Quirkin. Delightful. Now, let me tell you about the perils of the Tunnels of Terror. The tunnels connect many chambers, which our old Jabby Dearbird has designed many ingenious challenges to fill them with. Normally we have 3 carts available, but an earlier contestant today is still lost in the maze of madness. Maybe you'll see him down there. Who knows? Jabby, tell them about their ride."
Slabs motioned towards 2 carts on a track barely visible in the gloom.
"These carts are designed with a handbrake. You will need it to handle the turns without flying off. Also, at the bottom of this steep track is a switch point that activates every 2 seconds. You can use the brake to essentially steer you onto the correct track. Choose wisely. One track will lead you directly to your doom. The other takes you to the tunnels where you will be faced with a series of challenges. Only the bravest or the luckiest will survive."
Before they could protest, goblin guards shoved Gifford and Lefwen into the front mine cart, then turned their attention to Herman. As they prepared to force him into the back cart, one of the goblins spotted the finder's map in his satchel.
"Oi, what's this?"
The goblin sneered, snatching it away.
"Using a finder's map is cheating in this game."
"Please, give it back."
Herman pleaded, desperately trying to retrieve the precious map. But the goblins were too strong, and he found himself overpowered and forced into the back mine cart.
"Let the games begin."
Slabs bellowed as he pushed Gifford and Lefwen's cart into motion.
"Herman, we need to stick together!"
Lefwen called out as the cart descended.
"At the switch point, steer to port! Herman, steer to port!"
Her voice faded away as her and Gifford disappeared down the steep track.
"Which way is port again?"
He called back, but there was no answer. Herman felt his cart lurch forward and suddenly descend the steep track. The cart rattled and shook as it trundled down the tracks like a startled rabbit. The clattering of wheels against the rusty metal was deafening. Wind whipped through his chestnut hair. Steam-powered gears whirred in the cavernous background, accompanied by the cacophony of cackling goblin spectators. Herman's heart raced as he looked through the dimly lit cavern for a sign of Gifford and Leffen's cart.
Oh dear, look at that.
Slab's MacGuffin's voice boomed through the caverns.
Leffen and Gifford seem to have gotten on the wrong track. They're headed most certainly to their doom.
That's right, Slabs.
Jabby announced from his precarious perch.
They are headed for Hell's Bells. Their cart will come to a stop on the clock tower platform. Every minute, the platform will lower until it reaches 13. Then they will be dropped into the lava.
Herman's gut churned in dread as he realized the imminent danger his friends were in. Should he take the same track as Lefwen and Gifford? Would he be able to rescue them? Which track did they take? He couldn't remember if port meant right or left. He watched as he approached the switch point, an intersection that split into two separate tracks. The connected system of gears activated and switched the track to the left. Herman pulled the brake hard to decelerate. He wasn't sure what choice he was making, but he was at least doing something. 2 seconds later, the switch point activated again. Herman released the brake and booked the track to the right.
Wow, Jabby.
Slabs chimed in.
It looks like poor Herman left his friends to their fate and must traverse the treacherous tunnels by himself.
Suddenly, Herman's cart sped around a sharp bend. His satchel swung wildly, and the island of Memoria slipped from its confines. Time seemed to slow as the precious volume of his father's writing hung in the air before plummeting into the chasm below. Herman felt as if he lost his father for the second time as he watched the book disappear into a dark abyss. He was like a ship adrift at sea, battered by waves of despair and loneliness. He had no finder's map, no guidance from his father's book, and worst of all, no Lefwen or Gifford, who had always been his anchors in this whirlwind journey. Even Blitterfleck, the tiny fairy who had illuminated their path, was nowhere to be found.
Oh Lord, must I face these trials alone?
He whispered a silent prayer.
Please guide me through these dark tunnels and give me the strength to save my friends.
Herman's cart slowed to a whining halt as it reached the end of its track. There before him was a tunnel illuminated by flickering oil lanterns. He hesitated before stepping out onto the damp tunnel floor. The air was heavy with humidity and the smell of sulfur. He glanced at the abandoned cart, feeling the weight of his solitude. He sprinted down the dark tunnel, determined to somehow save Gifford and Lefwen before it was too late. The tunnel opened into a room. The air was heavy with tension and the scent of ancient metal. He caught his breath as he took in the sight before him. 3 massive pendulum blades swung back and forth across a narrow platform, their edges glinting menacingly in the dim light. Their movement was orchestrated with a series of ropes and pulleys suspended above the open ceiling.
Ooh, and now our hero faces his first challenge. The Pendulums of Peril.
Slabs announced, his voice echoing through the chamber.
Will he make it across unscathed? Or we be sliced and diced? Stay on the edge of your seats as we find out.
Herman gritted his teeth and focused on the swinging blades, trying to time their movements. As the first bell rang out from Hell's Bells, he clenched his fists and dashed forward as the first pendulum reached its apex. He leapt, ducked, and sidestepped with remarkable agility, narrowly avoiding each deadly blade. Each near miss was a dance with death. The goblin audience gasped and cheered with each daring move. With one last burst of speed, Herman reached the other side, his heart pounding in his ears.
By the Lord's grace.
Herman whispered as he wiped the sweat from his brow.
I made it.
Can you believe it, folks?
Slab's MacGuffin exclaimed to the goblin audience.
Herman has conquered the pendulums of peril. Will he be fast enough to save his dear friends from their fiery fate at Hell's Bells? Stay tuned.
As Herman pressed on through the tunnel, he thought about Gifford and Lefwen, hoping they were still alive. The tunnel opened into a room that appeared deceptively simple and bare. It was square, with plain stone walls that echoed the dim light from an oil lamp. The floor was made up of large flat tiles, each adorned with an intricate pattern. There was something unnerving about the stillness of the room, and Herman couldn't shake the feeling that danger lurked within.
Ah, yes!
Slab's voice boomed through the chamber's open ceiling.
It is time for our contestant to face the crushing conundrum, one of my favorites. Will he escape, or will he be squeezed out of the competition?
The sound of Hell's Bells striking two prompted Herman to step onto the first tile. He heard a faint click beneath his foot, and the walls of the room began to close in on him. Panic rose within his chest, threatening to choke him. He realized the tiles were pressure plates, each step bringing the walls closer to crushing him.
Lord, guide me through this trial.
Herman whispered as he considered his options. He knew that simply jumping wouldn't save him. He had to come up with a more creative solution. His gaze fell upon the narrowing gap between the walls, and an idea formed.
Come on, Herman, you can do this.
He muttered to himself, trying to tap into his strength, desperate and running out of room. He braced his hands against one wall and his feet against the other. Slowly, he began to shimmy across the room, suspending himself above the deadly pressure plates, keeping them from further activating the moving wall.
Look at that, folks!
Slabs cried out.
Herman is defying gravity in a daring display of acrobatics. Will it be enough to save him from the crushing conundrum?
Sweat dripped down Herman's face as he strained to keep himself aloft. His muscles ached, but the thought of Gifford and Lefwen trapped at Hell's Bells pushed him onward. Finally, he reached the far wall and collapsed onto the narrow ledge in front of the exit.
Thank you, Lord.
He whispered, his body trembling with exertion. He caught his breath before moving on through the tunnel, knowing that more challenges awaited him. The next room was even more ominous, with a gaping pit filled with razor-sharp spikes dominating its center. Narrow ledges lined the entrance and exit. Elaborate gears adorned the walls, connected to a series of platforms that moved in and out.
Behold, the gauntlet of gears.
Slabs announced.
Jabby, you really have outdone yourself with this one.
Thank you, Slabs. Do you think young Herman will master my mechanical marvel? Or will he fall victim to its vicious spikes?
Only time will tell Jabby.
As Hell's Bells struck 3, Herman's heart raced. He knew he had to act quickly. With each gear's turn, the platforms shifted in and out of the walls like the breath of some monstrous beast. He would need agility and precise timing to navigate this treacherous path. He leapt onto the first platform. As it retreated into the wall, he jumped to the next, narrowly avoiding a painful impaling. The goblin audience gasped and cheered with every successful leap, their excitement fueling his determination.
Amazing. Herman is dancing across the gauntlet of gears like a nimble squirrel.
Slabs shouted.
Can he keep up this pace and save his friends from their fiery fate?
Herman ignored the commentary, focusing instead on the rhythm of the gears and the beating of his own heart. With one final leap, he landed on the ledge at the other side of the room, panting and exhilarated. But there was no time to celebrate. He needed to press on. The lives of his friends hung in the balance. Herman slumped against the tunnel wall, his chest heaving as he struggled to catch his breath. Early lanterns cast eerie shadows on the rough stone. making it appear as if the walls themselves were closing in on him once more. He felt a pang of sorrow and fear clutch at his heart as he remembered that he was all alone in this treacherous labyrinth.
Lord, I don't know if I can go on.
Herman whispered into the darkness, his voice trembling with emotion.
Leftwyn, Gifford, I miss you both so much.
As hell's bells struck 4, the haunting chimes echoing through the tunnels, he knew that time was running out for his friends.
Lord, please give me the comfort, strength, and guidance to face these trials. Help me save my friends and find our way home.
A strange peace washed over him. It was comforting and warm, as if a loving hand had been placed upon his shoulder. With a heart fortified and filled with renewed resolve, Herman pushed off from the wall and continued down the tunnel. The next room came into view, illuminated by the flickering light of the lanterns. At its center stood a spinning wheel, but this was no ordinary wheel. 4 razor-sharp blades protruded from its circumference, almost scraping the sides of the room. To make matters worse, the wheel was mounted upon a platform that rose and fell unpredictably.
Behold, the Wheel of Whirling Woe!
Slabs announced the new challenge with gleeful enthusiasm.
You know, Slabs, I was never crazy about the name of this challenge.
Jabby interjected.
Well, I'm the host, and I like it. Anyway, let's see if our intrepid hero can cheat death once more.
Herman observed the wheel's movement, timing its rotations and the rise and fall of the platform. Just as the blade passed above him, he sprinted forward, ducking under the next blade and narrowly avoiding a painful haircut. The goblin audience erupted in cheers and jeers, their excitement obvious even from their seats high above the chamber's open ceiling.
Unbelievable.
Slabs exclaimed through his megaphone.
Herman is weaving through the slicing spinner like a nimble fox in a thicket. Can he keep up this display of dexterity and save his friends from a molten demise?
As hell's bells struck 5, Herman felt the weight of his friends' lives on his shoulders, pushing him onward. With each rotation of the wheel, he continued to dodge, duck, and weave his way across the room, the blades whooshing by mere inches from his body. Finally, with one last daring leap, he cleared the spinning wheel and landed on the other side, sweat dripping from his brow.
Thank you, Lord.
Herman whispered, his breath ragged, but his spirit unbroken. He knew there were more challenges ahead, but with faith as his shield and hope as his guide, he would not falter. They would all make it out of these tunnels alive, together. Herman stepped cautiously into the 5th room. The dim glow of oil lanterns cast eerie shadows on the walls, revealing an array of levers in the center of the room with 3 massive gates blocking his path. A sense of foreboding crept over him.
3 levers and 3 gates. This can't be too difficult.
Herman muttered to himself, trying to stifle the fear that threatened to strangle him. He couldn't let Leftwyn and Gifford down. They were relying on him.
The Chamber of Choices.
Slabs announced, slightly muffled through the chamber.
We can't see down into this room. Why don't you tell us about it, Jabby?
Sure thing. It's a simple puzzle, but with deadly consequences. Just pull or push the levers in the right order and all of the doors open. Each wrong sequence brings the ceiling further down.
Will our intrepid hero find the right combination to save his friends? Or will he be crushed under the weight of his failure?
Herman clenched his fists, determined not to let the goblin announcer's taunts get to him. He approached the levers and carefully pulled the first one upward. Instantly, the first gate opened, but the other 2 remained closed. The ceiling began to descend, causing his heart to race. He pulled the second lever upward. The second gate opened, but the first gate closed, while the ceiling continued its descent. As quickly as he could, he pushed both levers back down.
Wrong combination, dear boy.
Slab's MacGuffin chided from somewhere above.
You'd best hurry. The clock is ticking.
As the thunderous peal of hell's bells struck 6, Herman frantically tried different combinations, each gate going up and down, but never in unison. Each wrong move brought the ceiling lower and lower. Finally, he discovered the correct combination. The 3 gates creaked open, allowing Herman to crawl underneath the now precariously low ceiling.
Thank you, Lord.
He whispered, relief washing over him as he emerged into another tunnel.
There he is. By the skin of his teeth, our brave adventurer has made it through.
Slabs announced.
Can he reach his friends in time? Stay tuned, dear goblins, for the thrilling finale.
Herman pushed onward, his body aching and his mind racing with worry. The tunnel opened into a room that was lit by jewel lanterns hanging on the crossbeam of a 12-foot wooden post stuck in the ground. The lanterns illuminated 2 open gateways leading off in different directions. Herman's breath caught in his throat as the 7th strike of hell's bells echoed through the caverns. But there was something else, another sound, a flute. Leffen's flute! Listening closely, Herman followed the sound through the wider gate on the left. A wave of heat hit him as he entered the chamber. Across a chasm of bubbling lava, he spotted Leffen and Gifford trapped on the precarious platform of Hell's Bells.
Herman!
Only 6 minutes remains.
Herman,
Slabs
over here.
exclaimed.
Can Herman rescue his
I knew you
friends?
would come.
Or are they destined for a fiery end?